Michael, I read your story.
Yes.
Has undergone the bad taste in people's mouth.
Some people.
Do you still have your reputation trademark?
No, I do not. Thank you for asking.
Me neither. How does that make you feel?
It's a double-edged feeling. It's a complicated feeling. The free market only give people what they pay for. But I do know that there's a lot of people that work really hard for those. And giving to famous people. There's a lot of work that went into getting them. Somebody that worked really, really hard to get to the point where I got and that taken was a little disconcerting.
I imagine.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
that
yeah,
bad taste in your mouth. But this Twitter rival, what puts it in the position to blue sky?
Yes.
1 million
Yes.
new users, but Twitter has what, 450 million?
Depending on who you ask, somewhere between 250 and it's a difficult number because of all the bots and everything, but you're right, 1 million compared to all that is nothing.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a couple things that I think really kind of made this story resonate with me. First of all, so this is 1.2 million people on they raised $13 million, which at first glance seems like a tiny little amount of money, but a lot of people raised for 1 million users. So that's the first thing.
Yeah, and I'm one of those first million people to be on Blue Sky.
Is the competitors
The one social media has jumped ahead of everywhere.
behind the scenes. This is another one.
Besides MySpace and SpaceX.
Out of the spotlight. Who we only know by their pseudonym. And in fact, he did eventually end up receiving about $250,000 worth of dollars. And he's at 12 million users. That's $250,000. Now, Mastodon, another is actually and they're at 6.5. So, no money at all with 6 million and 12 million. And then this other one that has raised $13 million has 1 million users before it's even launched. It seems to me that this is just the beginning of the huge impact that the company's going to make in this space.
And does it being decentralized make a difference? Because honestly, my mom, she does not get her social media. As long as her church friends are on there, she's happy.
The current decentralized social networks are not centralized traditional social networks. Sometimes messages don't send the first time. It can be difficult. There's a little bit more responsibility as far as creation. You have to really manage your own. Your passwords are protected, or you could lose that. What it might take to solve some of those problems. I had a chance to play around. Right now, the unlaunched version goes very, very, very smoothly. So I think that the goal for all of these platforms is to eventually where our minds can use them without having to think twice about it. But there's another facet of that question that I think is worth exploring a little bit, which is that we care about who is on our social networks. That is maybe the number one biggest factor in what makes us decide which social network we want to use. Where our friends are, where our family is, where our colleagues are. We feel our relationships there. We have hundreds, thousands, millions, tens of millions, hundreds of millions if you're Elon Musk followers on their social media accounts. And those groups of people. Now, that makes it really difficult to leave. If you're a mom whose family is already there, you're us with our colleagues there, you're somebody else with a musician.
No, I haven't heard it said that way before.
It makes it really difficult to leave those social networks.
That's the reason I can't get off Facebook, right? Is because other people won't stop using it.
Their friends aren't on any social network because they don't exist yet. Their families aren't on any social network because they don't. The next generation of social media users do not have an existing following out there. They're going to be starting from zero, and they're going to be asking themselves, which one of these social networks is going to give me more freedom? Which one of these social networks?
It's not Facebook. Facebook's not going to give you. That's what I've been saying for years. Once the generation dies off that's using Facebook now, Facebook's dead. It's already just a bunch of old people arguing over politics all the time. Or a bunch of degenerate bullying.
But Twitter and Blue Sky, it's Mastodon,
Yeah.
It's just an either or thing, because when I keep thinking about Twitter rivals, you're either with Twitter or against Twitter, whereas with what is that?
So, I think first of all, I think it's worth noting that Instagram is actually experimenting with using technology in a way that could someday result in cross-platform. So I like to think of this email providers, and
yeah, if you have Hotmail, you're only locked in because you're still using it. You can't create a new Hotmail account anymore.
You can do it.
The moment you lose your password, you ain't making a new one. I don't think it exists anymore.
And I think what's happening actually resembles in a lot of ways what is happening with crypto. Crypto, Bitcoin, and everything in the ecosystem early on identified central banks as the big bad competitors. And they have built networks of, we won't say networks, but economies of users that are sending money back and forth to each other. There are platforms that let blockchains connect to each other. Bitcoin to a Bitcoin address, and it gets switched off. We're seeing something basically like the unification of where instead of central banks being the competition, it's big social is the competition. And these nascent networks that are learning how to let competitors and I think eventually this adoption from the user up instead of from the creator will force these big social network companies to give them a little more freedom.
Okay, so I believe it's somewhere that Blue Sky will allow someone to that you've seen. Explain that.
So, the very base layer of communication networks is something called a protocol, which is software. The same infrastructure. Think of like if you think of any industry having maybe 2 or 3 fundamental components. You can take those 2 or 3 fundamental components of an industry, like for example, identity. And you can actually move that down from a people that people are competing with into the software that everybody has access to. And you can instead of the most followers, who has the most identity, you can compete for who has the best algorithm, the least bullying. You can compete for who has a political agenda that mirrors your own. You can start to see social networks that are breaking up and they're competing for how they serve who has the and then you can move from competitive to competitive. So, for example, right now, the blue protocol, which is called the 8 is really the biggest that is building on the 8 protocol. And so, 19 other projects are being worked on right now. Actively to another competitor yet, because they're not competitors yet. But once that happens, you're essentially running a traditional social media company. You get to choose your own business, you get to choose your own interface, you get to choose your own design, your own layout. You can build it as you need to. The only thing that's different is the identities themselves, instead of being a part of the competition, instead of saying, oh,
I mean, that's a good idea, because then you could, if you're using whatever social media platform and it can cross message, people don't have to leave TikTok to communicate with me. People don't have to leave Facebook. I've completely cut certain people off because they won't stop putting me in a position to have to use Facebook.
Filter out people that are known for being abusive. This one lets me...
Because the bullying and the abuse, like he's talking about on certain platforms, outweighs the benefit of fucking being on Facebook.
Instead of how many people... The theory is that you're going to start solving information.
I guess my question is, what happens with just having your own website?
How so? You mean?
Yeah, if I have this individual profile, which is the way I want to reflect me, is having my own website?
Great question. No, it's not. And you saw that profile example. Pissed off a lot of people and lost his right? Like, he didn't actually own it. Very controversial, but democratically access to all of his users, to all of his followers. He did not own his identity. He woke up one day, said the wrong thing, and lost his access. So, people that don't actually really supported that. I thought that was a but it's not difficult to make a world where you can find yourself on the wrong side of a different agenda, of a different exercise of free speech, and you could lose the creators of these social networks can
start clean with the power of Clorox.
You just move to another social network. You have more ability to
because
with you if you fall afoul of
sense, but I believe I'm picking up. So everybody
Yes.
that works amongst various social networks that are from this one,
So it's the same protocol. In that protocol is the way that the identities are created. And since everybody is creating their identities the same way, those identities can move from user from social network to social network. Like you couldn't take your Facebook friend with you to LinkedIn. You couldn't take your TikTok followers to Twitter. Because at the protocol level, at the very basic layer of these social networks, they are creating identities differently. But by moving the feature layer, the top layer of the social networks, that everybody is competing over into the shared technology that everybody has access to, you enable a future where once you create your profile, you really do and you really can take it if you want to.
See, that was even Jay Rader to celebrate this project, be the CEO.
Well, yes. So, sorry to interrupt you. He announced the Blue Sky contract and announced his desire to fund a team. But he didn't actually appoint Jay until last year. And he did fund the team until last year.
Did you see the end of Twitter? Did you see the end of all of this? Did Jack Dorsey?
Thank you, Mr. Bat.
Did he see the end of social?
Great question. I think the short answer is yes. In fact, if we can take messages that he sent Elon Musk, that we were able to get access to as a result of a lawsuit that was going on, we know as a fact that that's what we did. There is evidence before Elon Musk bought Twitter for $1 billion that he was exchanging text messages with Jack Dorsey, where Jack Twitter's first mistake, its original sin, Twitter never should have been a company. Twitter should have been open to the world. And interestingly, Elon actually responded in those text messages by saying, interesting, we'll have to look into that. He seemed to be open to it. But going back to that first we can go all the way back to, I think, 2008. Twitter's very, very early developers Twitter. They actually connected Twitter to a competing social network and briefly enabled people to move from one platform to another. Now, it was never activated in a large-scale way. Where if Twitter had gone one way instead of the other, we never would have had a Mark Zuckerberg. We never would have had a Jack Dorsey. These characters that made billions of dollars off of our personal information by owning our identities and selling us goods off of what they learned about us, that never would have happened because we would have had access to our own identities. We would have been able to control our own identities. And when Jack, by his own recollection, by his own account, was forced to censor Donald Trump because he thought it was the right thing for the company. You could see the gears moving. He was regretting having to do that, and he would. And in a lot of ways, I think Twitter was his attempt to turn the clock back on Twitter and to undo the original sin, and to open it up to letting Twitter users move their profiles on competitors and vice versa. I think Jack might have been trying to clean his hands of he did not respond to for interviews I'm bitter about it. I think that I get Jay Graver, the CEO of Blue Sky, to the rightful credit as the leader of the organization. But everything indicates that it's kind of sad to see what it has become in the name of
So I want to go back a little bit to Elon. Elon Musk, what came with the opening for the project?
So Elon hired 6,000 people. Sorry, take that again. Elon fired 6,000 people shortly after buying Twitter. Among those people was an entire team that Jack Dorsey access to data to let other companies